Cool. Whoa. Thank you, Drew, for the introduction and for having me. For those who don't know, my name is David Keegan, and you can find out more about me on Twitter and Instagram and Dribble and everything like that at davidkeegan.com. I was thinking a lot about what I wanted to talk about today when Drew asked me. I should have put a slide in for this probably, but I'm currently the VP of Design at Acorns, which is an investment app that we actually talked about the last ValioCon. Drew was kind enough to allow us to do, I think, a maker's moment. And so since then, I think at that time I was the only designer on the Acorns team. And since then, we've grown to about 10 people. And of people doing motion graphics and product design and marketing design and everything like that. And so I was thinking it might be interesting to talk about kind of that, going from a team of one designer to now 10, and this is the first time I've managed a design team. And so we'll get into some of that, but I was thinking about it more and kind of breaking it down. And one thing that's always fascinated me is circles. And so that's actually what I wanted to talk about today, is circles. So before we get into that, kind of a little backstory on me and why I'm talking about circles. And it starts that I've always blended art and technology. So I started out in high school interning at this medical animation studio. I was doing computer graphics and 3D animation for this company that would make, like kind of cellular level motion graphics and 3D animation to illustrate different processes in the body, or how drugs work in the body and things like that. And so from there, continued in 3D animation. I moved to California in 2005. And I worked on this movie for Nickelodeon called The Barnyard. And the movie wasn't that great. If any of you have seen it, you know. But it was a really awesome experience. And it was kind of like a entry-level position. I was working on the render farm, which is like a huge server farm that basically creates every single frame that's on the screen. Once the artists, do all the animation and the lighting and everything. So I worked on that, and then also the TV show on Nickelodeon for about a year before moving to a really awesome job where I worked at Blizzard for 5 years. And that was also kind of in the film and television space. So I worked in the cinematics department. And while I was there, I was fortunate enough to work on this cinematic, which is my favorite of all of them, which is the StarCraft II Heart of the Swarm cinematic. Yeah. And then I also got to work on all of the World of Warcraft cinematics up until Mists of Pandaria, all of the Diablo 3 cinematics, which was my favorite game growing up. So this was like a dream come true. And so, that was really awesome, but the iPhone was out, and the iPhone was amazing. And I fell in love with the iPhone, started doing development and design for it, got on Dribble, started learning about interface design, started bringing some of that back into the work I was doing at Blizzard. So at Blizzard, I wrote tools for the artists to use. So to basically help them light these scenes, to animate the characters, and move assets through the pipeline. So it was a lot of programming and interface design, but kind of specifically for these artist tools and things. And so from there, I got really, really into interface design through Dribble and started incorporating that back in. And I mean, I think we had like some of the most like amazing looking kind of like internal tools that we spent a lot of time like making them look really cool. And then I wanted to really dive into mobile design. And so I joined a company called Sign Now in Newport Beach. And we created this application that you could sign documents. It was kind of like DocuSign, if you guys are familiar with that, very similar concept. And spent a lot of time on the interface and how this entire experience would work of helping people sign documents, because it really is like a tedious process, especially before all of these tools that showed you like exactly where to sign. And we had really cool technology that you could like kind of schedule the signing so that like one person would sign and then an email would automatically get triggered to someone else to sign, and it would kind of go through this whole flow. And probably the coolest moment when I was there was on the right is Deron Williams signing his, I think it was almost $100 million NBA contract with our app when he was training for the Olympics, I believe. And so that was really rad. And then Sign Now got acquired by Barracuda. And so once that happened, I kind of felt like I had kind of contributed what I wanted to there and thought it was time to branch out and work on some of my own apps. And so I was really into photo sharing and Instagram, and so me and a couple of friends tried to make an app that was kind of like Instagram sharing, but you could, when you posted the picture, you would tag like where you took that picture, and people would then try to guess like what that picture was. So it kind of was like gamifying Instagram posts and stuff. And we built it all on Parse and demoed it at one of the Parse developer days, which was amazing. But that never really went anywhere. We went to a bunch of incubators in LA, Launchpad and Amplify, and we never really got traction with it. And everyone just asked like, why would anyone use this over Instagram? Which is an extremely valid point. But I was not deterred by that. I tried to write another kind of Instagram type app. Basically, it was like the same kind of thing where you would take a picture and then instead of applying filters, you would apply like these hashtags on top of it. So you could style the hashtags and make it look nice, of kind of this idea of like connecting the content directly with like, the hashtag, which I thought was really cool at the time, but that never took off either. But so then I worked on a really amazing project that kind of like reshaped my whole thinking. I was really fortunate enough with some of my friends from Blizzard to work on the launch of the DaVinci Xi surgical system. And you may not have heard of this, but it's an amazing piece of technology that basically allows doctors to perform minimally invasive surgery through this robot. So there's a surgical console that the doctor looks into and gets a stereoscopic view into the body through a camera that is attached to one of these arms that you see. And then you can actually control the little like graspers, and you can put like staplers and scissors and all sorts of stuff. Like, so it has 4 arms, and you can basically put whatever you want into them. And so I got to work with a couple of my friends from Blizzard on this project. So I wrote an iPad app for them that was kind of like the Mac Pro website experience, where you would like flick through and it would play like this gorgeous 3D animation of spinning around this device, and then flick through again and it would transition to some other part of it. And so we did a lot of photo shoots and these interviews that you see. And so we had one of my friends was working on all the 3D animation and modeling, and another friend was working on the photography, and then I was kind of putting it all together into this application for their sales team to go out and show hospitals this amazing new technology. And so this kind of, from working on the photo apps to this project, it really kind of like reshaped my perspective of working on something that could actually have a meaningful impact in the world. Whereas the other photo apps are kind of just like a derivative product off of Instagram, which I think is an amazing app and has reached that level of having an impact on the world. And so from there, I was thinking about Intuitive Surgical, if that was somewhere that I wanted to stay. But then fortunately, locally where I live in Irvine, there was this great startup that I interviewed at, and I've had the same kind of feeling from them, and that was Acorns, of a way, of something that could have an actual impact on people's lives. And so for those of you who don't know, it's an investment app that you connect all of your credit cards to, and then we monitor the transactions and invest the change for you. So you're investing regularly in the background of life without even thinking about it. So you're constantly buying into the market, and then we have a lot of other kind of tools on top of that to set money aside through recurring investments, or this new feature that I'll talk a bit about called Found Money, where brands that we've partnered with will actually invest back into your account, kind of like cash back, but it goes into your actual investment account. And so I think this video is pretty cool. We made this about a year ago, or not totally a year ago, but this was for our 1-year anniversary, which is in August. And so this was kind of like a breakdown of everything that we had accomplished in that year. So it's been the most exciting project I've ever worked on, I'd say. In terms of the press coverage that we've gotten has been amazing, and the design awards and things that we've won, which are particularly awesome. We have an amazing team.
What we're doing is incredibly exciting, but more importantly, what we're doing is meaningful.
I believe that microinvesting will be ubiquitous. It'll be something that happens in the background.
We are bringing new people on at a pace that really hasn't been seen, because we're making it easy and accessible.
So that was kind of like an overview of our first year. So we launched August 2014, and we made that August 2015, and still going strong. The one thing that's particularly kind of awesome to me about this, being so excited, being a total like Apple fanboy, that one day Apple asked us for a demo, and they didn't tell us what it was for at all. They just wanted something that had no network connectivity, no login. And then I think actually like our VP of products niece called him and was like, hey, do you know you're in the Apple store? And so we're still today in every Apple store in the United States, which is freaking amazing. So stoked about. So if you want to check it out, the app, the demo's a little outdated now, but it's in the Apple store. And then, so like I said, we launched this new program called Found Money, where these initial beta brand partners like Jack Threads and Hotel Tonight, Dollar Shave Club, 1-800-Flowers, and Jet.com will actually invest back into your Acorns account as you just naturally spend money with them. And this kind of ties in with our kind of whole philosophy of helping people kind of set up their financial structure that they don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about, a lot of time worrying about, that it just connects directly with these actions of spending money that people are already doing. So that's a bit about me. Let's get back to circles and how that connects. So, circles are a major, or the core kind of building block in design. We have like triangles, squares, circles. If you distill shapes down, those are kind of like the key essential ones. And circles play a very important role in product design and architecture and illustrations, of course, and there's this whole craze of circular avatars, and the Apple Watch adopting circles all over the place. The new Instagram logo, of course, is essentially two circles and a rounded rectangle, but looks beautiful. And circles, being kind of essential design elements in creating more complicated shapes. And even in drawing class, it's a quintessential building block of building up to a more complicated shape, something like this. And then, so I think that in circles, in all of these examples, I think it's something that we're naturally drawn to these shapes. And I think that it's because there's a lot of examples of circles in nature, in beautiful things, like in eyes, and them being the windows to the soul, and flowers and beautiful things, the sun, the moon, and even our own planet that we live on. And there's this interesting video I came across a while back that I wanted to incorporate in this. Hopefully it plays.
People have been curious about this for a while. So if you go back, and here's a beautiful example, to the 1920s, a young scientist by the name of Asa Schaefer asked a friend, could you put on a blindfold? I'm going to take you to the edge of a field. And he said, what I'd like you to do is walk across this field in a straight line. Just stay as straight on course as you possibly can. So the man headed off, and here is Asa's map of what happened next. The man starts to walk, and his route, as you see here, begins to tilt ever so slightly to the right. We're going to speed this up just a bit. Notice that the blindfolded man now starts to turn dramatically, taking him back to the road where he started from, and then across the road, and then around again, and then back again, and around again, and increasingly he's moving in smaller curls until finally he hits a tree and stops. All the while, he thought he was walking in a perfectly straight line. Strange? Well, there are many studies just like this. From 1928, here are three people who leave a barn on a very foggy day, and what they want to do is go to a point about a half-mile away. Here's what happened, the map version. The barn is here. The destination is here. Now watch this. Off they go. They think they're walking straight, but instead what they actually do is they start to turn and turn and turn and end up, weirdly, back at the very place where they started, the barn. This experiment has been done in all kinds of situations. Here's another 1928.
So there's a couple more situations. He talks about swimming, people swimming in circles, even driving a car. You think you could just keep your hands on the wheel and drive straight. We somehow are unable to go in just a straight line if blindfolded. We seem to be drawn to circles. And in researching this, I came across a really interesting fact that a professor, someone who studies the Earth and topography, looked at all of the rivers, all of the known rivers, and their distances, and looked at if you trace the actual length of the river and then look at the ratio of that, of the distance that it travels, like as the crow flies, then you magically get like a ratio of 3.14, which is pi, the circumference of a circle, or the ratio of the circumference of a circle. So, and this apparently applies to like all rivers, that it gets somewhat to this ratio. So there seems to be this kind of overwhelming drawing force to circles. So I think it's no wonder that we all find them beautiful in design, in avatars, in the watch, all sorts of things. And so that gets me into circle math. So with my background in computer graphics and programming, circles have always been something that's like fascinated me in terms of kind of the math behind them, of how you can draw a circle using pi and get this shape. And I think that, so I'll just, so pi as a refresher is a very long random number, 3.14. And then, so it represents the circumference of a circle, or the ratio of the diameter to the circumference. And so as a quick refresher of that, if you were to take that diameter and lay it out on the circle, you would get three complete segments, and then there's this like 1.14, after that with all those other numbers if you wanted to go out that far. So I think that our minds are, even subconsciously, even if you don't think that you like math, that there seems to be a part of all of us that kind of connects with math, that realizes the beauty of a circle, and even, let's see if this plays, and especially in music. Did it play? So So I found this little clip.
And so what you're hearing is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. In the mood. So all those things have the groupings of 3. 3 is like a magic number. It's like, I don't know what the explanation is. 3 just feels great.
Clayton Cameron, he'll be back later.
Cool. So that was a little clip from this podcast I really like called the TED Radio Hour, talking to a drummer musician about kind of math and how that connects to music, and again how we kind of, even subconsciously, you listen to that music, you enjoy it, and not even thinking about this kind of sequence of 3 that's in there. And so I wanted to go back to these kind of like building blocks of shapes, and just something else that I find kind of fascinating that hopefully you guys find interesting too. I put together a playground in Xcode that kind of like illustrates some of these points and kind of like the kind of mathematical properties that I find so fascinating about circles. Okay, well, hopefully this kind of illustrates it enough. But I wanted to kind of illustrate some of these points of, so I put together this Xcode playground that's drawing this shape, but it's doing it in a very special way where it's actually stepping around and drawing like 100 polygon lines all the way around to make a circle. And if I comment this out, then we should be able to see that. Okay, so what this code is doing is basically like drawing a line from here to here and then going all the way around, and it's using pi, that's a very special value, to basically figure out the circumference of the circle. So kind of like putting that all together to draw a circle. And so I think it's interesting so there's 100 segments in here, and as we just go down to like say 12, then we know it's the same exact kind of drawing, but we no longer have like this perfect circle. It's now, you can clearly see the polygons, And so if we go down to 6, then we have something, hexagon, clearly not a circle, and can even go to 4 and draw a square. And so using pi and this drawing code, we can make all these different shapes, all just using pi and kind of tracing around. And so if you simplify a circle down, we can go even further to where it becomes a triangle. And so you can simplify a circle down to a triangle or build it back up to be an actual circle. And I don't know, I think this is interesting. But I think that's cool that kind of all of these shapes that are kind of the building blocks of design and kind of form can be built and reduced from a triangle to a circle, all using this kind of mathematical pi circumference formula. And so kind of bridging design, development, those kinds of things, I don't know, I think are really interesting. Another thing I really love about circles is that they can help us understand infinite numbers. When I was in school, I didn't really care about math at all. And it wasn't until I started programming graphics that I actually understood kind of what these concepts mean, like that code to draw a circle. Or I think infinite numbers is such a vague term, okay, this is infinite numbers. But I think if you think about it in a circle, it kind of starts to make more sense where on this circle there are points, like in that drawing example. And if we subdivide it again, there are even more points, and subdivide it again, there are even more points. And we could do this forever. And so on this circle, there's an infinite number of points. And so I think you can zoom in, and there's always going to be more points. And I remember when I kind of realized that or heard that was, I felt like the first time that I understood infinite numbers. And then you can think about it that there are an infinite number of infinite numbers, that it's multi-dimensional, because you have the original infinite numbers on this circle, but then you can go out from there an infinite number of times, and on this circle there's an infinite number as well, which, I don't know. Yeah. And I think that in thinking about circles, one thing I like to do is think about kind of how we can understand dimensions and space and time. So if you look at a point that has no dimensions, it's just a single point in time or a single point in space. And then if you extend that out, you now have one dimension. And then if you rotate that, you get a disk, which is 2 dimensions. And if you rotate that, you get a sphere, which is 3 dimensions. And then if you animate that sphere, you now have 4 dimensions, which is why Cinema 4D is called Cinema 4D, because you now have gotten to 4 dimensions of space and time. And then I don't know what happens after that, but it's really interesting to think that this is a 3-dimensional point in time that you could almost come back to here, and then if you animate it, it becomes a line that you could go to there, and you can fold stuff in your mind if you think about it that way. So kind of like this. So there's infinite circles. That I love. This guy, I forget his last name. I had it in my notes, but they're not showing up here. Dave something. That he makes these animated GIFs. He's got a ton of them on Tumblr and on his Dribble that are just I don't know, really cool. repeating mathematical kind of based gifts. And then, yes, so I don't know, I think thinking about this stuff is fun, and I don't know, it kind of does blow your mind. If you too like thinking about math and how it relates to the things that we love, these are two really great podcast episodes. The Circle of Fifths from Surprisingly Awesome is all about math and music. That one I thought was amazing. And then Solve for X, I played a little bit of it about the threes in music, but it has a lot of really awesome stories about how math kind of connects with our everyday lives in unexpected ways, but also, you know, related to design. Now, the kind of the last thing I wanted to talk about was like how circles relate to our actual like lives of how we live. And this is something I think about a lot, of kind of like positive and negative circles, cycles, and things. And so, you know, if I wake up early and eat breakfast and work out, get to work early, check in with my team, work on my like most important tasks, eat a good lunch, work out, get home, cook dinner with my girlfriend, like you have this really great, you know, circle that continues to grow and everything. But oftentimes, you know, I'm not perfect, and so it doesn't go that way. Oftentimes, it's, you know, a negative circle or a negative cycle where I wake up late, I skip breakfast, I skip my workout, I get to work late, you know, the whole day gets thrown off, and then, you know, I'd eat out or microwave food and go to bed late, and so and both of these, you know, compound in negative and positive ways. And so this is something that I also like thinking about circles and making, you know, kind of analyzing my life of how things are going, whether I'm in, you know, this routine or whether I'm in this routine, making, you know, kind of positive progress and really tackling the day and tackling what I have to work on, or if I'm, you know, feeling tired and lethargic and not accomplishing as much. And then, so with this, a lot of books that I really enjoy and would recommend on these topics, like The Power of Habit, creating good habits to improve your day. The Compound Effect is kind of talking about that, like how your habits affect your life on a compounding basis. If you're, you know, if you're waking up early and tackling the tasks, that you actually have, you know, a compounding benefit to that. Same thing on the negative, that if you are overworking, stressed, not working on the most important things, that quickly can go down. And then Eat That Frog is a really great book about time management. And I've just loved the title because it comes from this great Mark Twain quote, that if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do that first thing in the morning. And if it's your job, oh wait, that's the wrong quote. Sorry. The actual quote, I think he still said this, but I didn't totally read this when I put it into the presentation. So the title actually is about a quote, still by Mark Twain, that if you have to eat a frog, you should do it first thing in the morning because you can be sure that that's the worst thing you'll have to do that day. So the idea being that if there's a task that you're dreading, something you don't want to do, you should do it as soon as possible, and then the rest of your day will just be smooth sailing. Apologize for that mishap. And so this is something that we think a lot about at Acorns. With our product, we're trying to kind of foster improved or positive financial habits for people. You know, helping them buy into the market early and often, continuing to invest, linking spending to investing, so that through these habits that everyone already has, we're triggering a positive, you know, action off of that. And then also, reinforcing those actions with things like found money, and education and emails and things like that we're sending out. Cool. And then the very last thing I wanted to talk about, the other place that circles tie in, and I think this comes in to the negative and positive kind of circles part also, is your circle of friends and your squad goals. So throughout my career, I can kind of like trace my career through people and friends that I worked at, I interned at Ex Vivo. One of the guys there came to California to work on the Barnyard. I came to visit him, ended up getting a job. A bunch of my friends from Barnyard moved to Blizzard, so I joined Blizzard there. When I decided I wanted to get into iPhone development, I talked to a friend who introduced me to a recruiter who got me to sign Now gig. The contracting I did was all with my friends from Blizzard. And then I ended up at Acorns because of kind of the thinking that I was doing around what is meaningful work, and also with my group of friends getting more into investing led me to the final, or to Acorns. And so this is my squad. These are my best friends from Blizzard who are a huge part of my life and everything that I've accomplished. They are all incredible, amazing designers, which is awesome. They're currently, I think I think 2 of them are currently working on Avatar, and the second guy over just finished up some work for Boston Dynamics. In addition to doing some contract work together, we've done some like fun projects and side projects. So this was a photo shoot that was really awesome. We just got a bunch of muscly guys and some guns, and some cars, and like put together a photo shoot. It was like a pitch for something that never went anywhere, but it's been a really awesome group. And aside from these fun projects, they're also the guys that introduced me to a lot of these audiobooks and a lot of these principles about. So they're all trying to be the best that they can possibly be, and so that pushes the entire group forward. And so making sure that you're surrounded by people who are doing that, who are pushing you forward, that from them I got into investing and started learning and reading about kind of all of these principles of kind of planning and time management and tasks and everything like that. And it wasn't always, I guess the other point I wanted to make is that I wasn't always kind of in that situation. So when I was at Blizzard, I originally had kind of a group of friends that were not exactly like that. I mean, they weren't bad people or anything like that, but it just was a different mindset that that had different kind of goals in mind. And so when I started hanging out with these new guys, it just kind of like was a rocket ship after that, which is awesome. So in conclusion, the next time you draw out your next amazing UI and put a circle in it, I hope that you think about kind of some of these principles. Remind yourself to kind of do a gut check of how did your week go? Did you accomplish what you wanted to? Did you wake up on time? Did you work out? Did you go for a bike ride? Whatever it may be. Or I say, like, for me, I oftentimes like look back at my week and it's like, man, that it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. Like, I didn't wake up on time. I fell into this negative cycle again, waking up late, not working out. It makes a huge difference. So next time you draw a circle, just think about that. That's all I got. Cool. Do we have questions?
Thanks, David. I really enjoyed that. I'm curious, the cinematic you showed was incredible. I'd never seen that before, and it was really amazing. I wondered, could you talk a little bit more about that process of how something like that happens, or like what that development was like?
Yeah, so Blizzard is a really unique place, so they're kind of known for their cinematics. So they produce the highest quality cinematics in the gaming industry. And so that team specifically, I think at the time that that was made, it's probably 250 people. So it's a good sized team. And there's usually 2 kind of productions going on at the same time. So it's like 150 people per cinematic. So that cinematic is probably took, from planning to full execution, probably 2 years. But people actually working on it, like probably like 8 months to 10 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you took me through there, and they have like a whole separate wing just for like the mini Pixar version.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, do you use any apps or tools to better craft your habits, like your daily habits?
Yeah, actually use these notebooks. I guess I should say that's why I'm pointing them out. Like, so these notebooks are called Word books, and they're formatted that they have like a little circle in front of the line, and then it's the line. And in the front page, it talks about their kind of like system for taking notes. So you put like 1/ for something that's in progress and 2 slashes for something that is done. And I used to use like to-do apps on my phone and everything, but I found that it just like got so massive that it was kind of achievable. And then when I found these books, I switched over to them completely. And anything I don't accomplish the day before, I actually rewrite out for the next day, so that every day I'm kind of starting from scratch. And so that helps me kind of in the morning, ideally, reprioritize my day, what's actually important to get done. And then also in meetings and things, I can just jot it down instead of having to like type into my phone or be on my computer, so I can be present there. And then just quickly jot it down and follow up with the kind of cross-out system that they have. So those I've actually found to be really helpful. And then I do, of course, keep like digital notes still for longer term projects and stuff. So that's kind of for like, this is what I want to do today. And then use just like Apple Notes for like kind of longer term stuff.
Hi, thanks for sharing over here.
Hi, oh, sorry.
Thanks for sharing your love of circles. I would just love to know when you started noticing your fascination with circles and how that's affected like all the areas of life.
I was trying to figure that out actually. There was something, it was when I realized this thing of that there are infinite numbers of infinite numbers. I forget what it was. I think it was either like a podcast or a book I listened to or something. And I think I kind of remember like the time that dawned on me. I was at Sign Now, so it was like around 2012, but I don't remember exactly why. And then I think from that, this kind of thought process happened afterwards, where I was relaxing and thinking about things, and I thought of this.
Hi. Can you kind of talk about what's dictated? You showed a little bit of the different companies and moves that you've made throughout your career. What has kind of dictated those decisions? Has it just been something caught your interest, or have you set certain rules for yourself of when A happens, I will go, or when B happens, I will move?
So I think so at Ex Vivo, that was just like a high school internship. I was kind of fortunate enough to have a group of friends that we would make videos and computer graphic, or started out as videos, and then I had one friend in particular that we started learning Maya and After Effects together. So in high school, I started doing computer animation. And then, so that was just like a summer or like a internship. And then, I didn't mention it, but I actually went to the Savannah College of Art and Design for a year. And after that year, I went to the Barnyard. And I think after a couple of months, I just was thinking like, well, I'm going to school for computer graphics. I'm already doing computer graphics. Why should I go back? And so I quit school, did Barnyard full time. And then there, when I transitioned, so that project just wrapped up, like the movie shipped. And then I moved on to the TV show, but I was only there for about 6 months. And that was because it seemed like it was going to be a really awesome opportunity, but then they just wanted to use a whole bunch of off-the-shelf software, so I wouldn't be able to like develop as much. But Blizzard and Sign Out, I think those are the biggest ones. At Blizzard, I just felt like I had been there for 5 years, and I kind of like accomplished a lot. I worked on all the cinematics. At 5 years at Blizzard, they give you an actual sword to commemorate your achievement. So I have that. So I kind of got that, and I felt like, I felt good. And so I left, and a bunch of my other friends that you saw later in the pictures, like they left around that time as well to go work on different things and build mechs and stuff. And then Sign Now, we got acquired, and I felt like I had accomplished what I wanted to, and I wasn't crazy about the direction it was going.
Right. Hi. Right here. So I actually had a lot of coworkers reading The Power Habits, and I've been wanting to read it too. I wanted to know what your major takeaway was from it, and do you recommend reading? I guess you do.
I do, yeah, definitely. I think there's a couple takeaways. I think that I should actually go back and read it now, but I think that just kind of like knowing that exists, that we're kind of how habit formation works, that we're kind of susceptible to habits, both negative and positive, which the book talks about. It talks about in negative gambling habits and people that struggle with that. It talks about positive habits. I can't remember if it's in this book. It may have been something else, but I think in habit formation, there's a great thing. I don't think it's in this book, but I was mentioned it anyway. That it was an interview with Michael Phelps and his coach, and they talked a lot about mini wins and how kind of crucial those are in kind of reaffirming your actions and forming these habits of kind of setting yourself up for success at really little things like waking up early or working out, or kind of lining all of these things up so that when it comes time to do the big thing like the massive swim event, like you already feel like you have all of these little wins under your belt, that this is just like not as massive of a leap. But yeah, so I think they cover things like that. I can't remember if that's from that book or not.
I just have a question for you about Acorns and applying the circles. Talking about for you is the idea that you came here and the system there kind of perpetuates this idea of propelling this movement forward. Did they already have this kind of mindset about them, and then that you kind of helped develop that further, and then like how did that kind of progress? Because it seems like it's a core part of what they're doing and what you believe, and just curious if that was just a mutual understanding or if it was a collaboration.
Yeah, it was. When I originally interviewed, I mean, that was a lot of why I decided to join Acorns, talking to the co-founders about their kind of the reasons for building the product. Because when I joined, Acorns had already been around for about 2 years. But in that 2 years, it was like just totally in stealth mode, because we actually have a self-clearing broker-dealer, which is really complicated to set up for being able to move money and hold these accounts. And so it took 2 years to get all of the regulatory requirements from FINRA and the SEC to get that set up. But they had been thinking about kind of this whole product for that entire time and building prototypes and mock-ups and things. And the key feature has always been the roundups of connecting spending to investing in the background of life in small amounts that you don't even notice. And that was the whole reason that they built this broker-dealer, was to be able to invest $5 at a time, which was not possible without constructing their own. So. Cool, thanks guys.